Yo, what's up, all you burner stones and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are ya?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I love it. Hey, all you vipers out there, hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. And Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal with some pure Michigan given to us and grown by our friends, the Heisenterp brothers. What a unique and great name. Thank you, fellas, for donating to the cause. And Pure Michigan is a rare indica-dominant hybrid strain, 70-30, 70 indica, 30 sativa, created through crossing the potent Oreos and Mendo Breath F2 strains. Infamous for its super high-level potency, Pure Michigan is one delicious bud that will leave any indica lover, me, feeling totally satisfied in both mind and body. This bud has a sweet and slightly spicy, nutty chocolate flavor with a lightly creamy vanilla exhale. The aroma is very similar with a sweet mocha coffee overtone, accented by touches of earthly pungency and spicy nuttiness. The Pure Michigan High is just as delicious, with calming and soothing effects that will leave you feeling happy and lifted, wow, that smells excellent, for hours on end. You will feel happy and creative in this state, socially inspired and ready to carry on conversations with anyone and everyone around you with ease. A calming body high accompanies this heady lift, leaving you feeling fully relaxed from head to toe and slightly sleepy at times. Oh, it's going to be great for bedtime. In combination with its high 20 to 30% average THC level, these effects make Pure Michigan a great choice for treating conditions such as depression, chronic stress, eye pressure, or glaucoma, insomnia, headaches, or migraines. This bud has fluffy grape-shaped olive green nugs with purple undertones, thin red-orange hairs, and coating of tiny purple tinted white crystal trichomes. The effects: calming, creative, giggly, relaxing, sleepy, and uplifting. Oh, I love the giggles.
Sounds great.
Depression, eye pressure. Reliefs of symptoms are depression, eye pressure, glaucoma, headaches, insomnia, migraines, and stress. Flavors are chocolate, diesel, nutty, spicy, sweet, vanilla. The aromas are chocolate, diesel, earthly, pungent, and spicy. What do you think, Mrs. Weedman, so far?
I think that my taste buds are garbage.
I feel so
because I don't know.
I feel so bad.
I don't smell it. I don't taste it. And it's not because of the flower. It's just me.
Yes, we know.
Just me.
We know. I smell it, and it smells wonderful.
I wish I could, because I love the smell of weed.
Very smooth.
Yeah.
Out the mouth, into the lungs, out the nose. Very nice. I will say I taste chocolate.
Do you?
Yes.
Nice.
And I taste a little hint of coffee.
Ooh.
That's what I taste. I don't taste the spiciness of it all, but I do taste chocolate.
Spicy like pepper. Do you
Probably.
taste
No,
like
I don't,
a little,
I don't
no?
smell it.
No?
Or taste it.
Or cinnamon, probably more of a pepper.
The chocolate, though, definitely.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yummy.
Oh, yeah. It's really nice. Very nice, Heisenterp Brothers. We appreciate you throwing to the cause. It was great to see you at the Urban Legend Cup. Pure Michigan is very pure indeed. Very nice. And I'm going to low level this right now because it is a heavy indica and
Okay.
I have to do a 2-hour show. So we will smoke more, and I will definitely be smoking more before bed tonight. I look forward to it. We had a great week, of course. Hopefully everybody out here listening had a great week also last week because it was Thanksgiving. And we had a wonderful dinner with family. Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Weedman are always late. We are late. And I hate being late more than anything in this world. But family gatherings, we are always late.
Because Mr. Weedman thinks they should be planned on his schedule.
No,
Yes.
no. I don't.
Yes.
No, I don't.
You are literally militant about being on time.
I am.
And holidays, we're always literally an hour to an hour and a half late. Yeah.
30 minutes to an hour.
Always.
Yes, but okay.
It's ridiculous.
So let me explain why. It's because not because Mr. and Mrs. Weedman are not just being lazy. Mrs. Weedman does a lot of baking on holidays, and I do cooking for some dishes that people enjoy. We are not early birds. We are not early to rise. We are not early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I am a late baker. I get up late, I get my shit done, and I get to move on. That's the lateness of me. But we've always been that way. And when we got up at 9, You right away went downstairs, made coffee, and started rocking and rolling. You made an apple pie from scratch, which takes hours because you have to make your dough, right? You make a delicious buttery crust, right? You make an apple pie, right? And you do a Dutch apple pie.
I do. Yeah.
You do. You make a crumble, right? The apple crumburger, as I call it. Okay. Your apples take a long time because you cut your apples, right? You mix them up with all nutmeg, cinnamon.
No nutmeg.
Cinnamon, spices, make everything nices.
Yes.
Right? You put a little orange in there, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, maybe.
Jeez, just giving all my trade secrets away.
Yeah,
Seriously, Mr. Weedman.
I don't know how to make your dough. I don't know how to make your pie crust. But you make this pie, and it's a very, very good pie. It was your dad's favorite. And that takes a few hours between prep.
Yes.
Cook, bake, done. But that's not the only thing you do. You also make your famous sweet potato pie casserole with the marshmallows on top. If you
No pie, just casserole.
Right, but the sweet potato casserole, it's your mixture of my dad's recipe that you learned, which is peeled sweet potatoes soaked overnight to get the starch out, right? And then you boil them. Then you mix them with the mixer, right? And then you add all your love to it, all your different spices and stuff to make it taste good, brown sugar, cinnamon, and all that good stuff. It's okay. They can find it.
I'm teasing. Kind of.
Then you put it in a tray and then you put marshmallows on it, right? To then go to your mom's house to bake in the oven. It's already somewhat baked, but you need to bake the marshmallows to get them all nice and brown on top and gooey ooey in the middle, right? That's 2 dishes. That's another hour, right? Then you also decide to throw out some fucking delicious bars. What are those called?
Magic bars.
Magic bars, and they are magically delicious. Okay? What is that from? Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious, right? Yeah. 3 dishes. From 9 o'clock till noon, you are nonstop. Sipping coffee, drinking it cold.
No, it was till about 2.
Okay, 2. Okay, all right. So there you go. 2 o'clock.
And we were supposed to be there at
3.
3.
Right. So you're going from 9 until 2. I have to make mashed potatoes, taters, okay? I peel them the night before, let them soak overnight to grab the starch out of it. I make 15 pounds of potatoes. It takes a while to boil those fuckers, right? It takes at least a good 45 minutes to get them to where the consistency is right where a fork goes through them. That's the consistency, everyone.
Like the smoothest mashed potatoes you've ever had. They're amazing. I can't duplicate them.
And
I can do a lot of cooking, and I cannot duplicate.
Nobody can recommend. No, everyone who's tried cannot duplicate these mashed potatoes. It's nothing.
And they are part of like the main dinner, so you want to get them to the house
hot.
When they're hot. Same with my potatoes.
Right.
So, but that doesn't mean we have to be late.
Hold on.
But dinner.
So you started cooking at 9 and went all the way to 2.
Yeah.
That's a work day.
No.
Almost a full work day.
Not for us.
For some people, okay? It's almost a full work day. 9 to 2 is a long time to be standing on your feet and cooking and make sure that everyone has the best Dutch apple pie, the best sweet potato casserole.
All right, you're really
bars.
working hard to push the agenda here. We were late. We should have started earlier.
I understand.
That's all.
What time?
I should have made my pie crust the day before.
We
I should have
recorded
prepped
the
my
night
potatoes.
before.
I know, and then I went to my mom's and helped get prep over there.
Right. So for us to show up an hour late was a beautiful excuse because we didn't just sit around and get stoned. We sat around, got stoned, and did work.
I got stoned and baked.
Yeah, right. So
I
you got double
baked,
baked, like a twice baked potato.
I was baked while I was baking. It was fantastic.
So I'm never pissed off about showing up late. If we showed up late, empty-handed, not baking anything, and not
all right, Mr. Weedman, you're selling it really hard.
Because I'm a salesman.
We're just late.
Your mom, though, here's the best part about it. Your mom never gets mad when we show up late. She always comes in. She always has a smile on her face when we show up because we show up with
food,
shit for the meal, right? And dinner didn't start till 5:30. We got there at 4. We got there like 4:15.
It makes it a very rushed evening for us because we get there and then it's like boom, right into eating dinner.
Of course.
And then 100%. Right into eating dessert and then we go home.
And I bet you we're not the
only...
Where
everybody else has like an hour and a half to like ease into it. They get to socialize and
because
have a conversation.
Brings anything.
Oh, stop it. Yes, they do. You're so lame.
Just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
We bring 3 things. Like potato. We bring potatoes and dessert. But we bring a side dish. We bring 2 side dishes and there's like 10 side dishes. So there's other people cooking.
But everybody waits
All
for
right, Mr. Weedman.
your side
Moving
dish.
on.
Hold on. Hold on. So here's something great.
What?
Mrs. Weedman, mom, loves Mr. Weedman.
My mom?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Weedman, mom, loves Mr. Weedman. This year, when Mrs. Weedman and our sister-in-law went over the house to go set up the house and get everything ready for Thanksgiving dinner, table, silverware, all that stuff, let's call her Tutu Weed. Weed Tutu. What did she do for Mr. Weedman this year?
She set up the garage with a table and chairs. So her favorite son-in-law, I'm just calling him that, has a place to sit with all of the people that go out to the garage to have weed with him. My sister about kicked me in the shin. I think she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Right now, I'm dying.
Are you kidding me? Mom really set up a smoking place for Boot and all the nieces and nephews,
the cousins,
and other sisters and things. Yeah. Oh my God! And I just rolled my eyes, like, of course she did that for Boot. Mr. Weedman's nickname in the family and friends is Boot, singular, like a shoe, a boot. A boot. Oh my God. And because we have a high ratio of Pauls in our family, and sorry, now I just gave away all your names.
It's all right. They can go on our website and find out our names.
Yeah. So Boot has been his longtime nickname outside of Mr. Weedman. That's his alter ego.
Yes.
Or actually, Mr. Weedman is the alter ego of Boot.
Yes.
I would
Nobody ever forgets Boot.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about this is your mom made a cannabis place for us to smoke.
Yes.
Even if even though it was for me.
Right. It was really, there's all of the nieces and nephews, hardly any of them drink. If they drink, it's, a glass of wine or a beer. Nobody's like even getting buzzed.
But boy, oh boy.
Even the younger ones. But they love their weed.
Boy, oh boy,
all
Mr. Weedman comes.
Well, not all of them, but most of them.
When Mr. Weedman comes walking through the door, they know. They know Mr. Weedman's got the good.
And I have a sister who really enjoys weed.
Yes.
And there's others in the family
that
who
enjoy
do
edibles too. Yeah.
And edibles, yeah.
So it was special, though, that your mom recognized a safe haven for us to go smoke. Wonderful. Hopefully everyone out there had their good cousin walk after dinner, or you had a nice place that people now accept if you smoke, that you can go and enjoy yourselves after dinner to go have your nice dessert.
Well, some people live in nice enough climates that they actually go for a walk, or they can go sit outside.
So cold this
but
year.
Not here.
Thanksgiving, no, it was really cold this year. But it was fun. It was blessings and favor for all of the family. And hopefully everybody out there had good Thanksgiving, good turkey, wasn't dry, and everybody out there had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a little storytelling to look at Mrs. Weedman's all sour now. I love it.
I just love how you, when you're cool with something, how hard you will work to justify it.
It's just
Mr. Weedman.
It's just who I am.
It's who you are.
Got to pull it, right? What else? Oh, we December 8th, right? We will be at Brunch of Stoners.
December 8th?
Yes, I think it's Sunday, December 8th. Let me check my calendar,
I thought
everybody.
it was 6th.
Let me check my calendar.
Yes, Sunday, December 8th.
December 8th. Brunch of Stoners, the final one of the year of 2024. We will be at Brunch
location.
Yes, new location. So make sure you go to Brunch of Stoners on Instagram and you find out where to buy your tickets. And Mr. and Mrs. Weedman will have our booth set up as always, rolling doinks for people and sharing the love and sharing the 8-decade story that Mrs. Weedman built. And come check us out at Brunch of Stoners, the final one of the Christmas holiday cheer. Come get a present from Mr. and Mrs. Weedman, the old doinky doink. And also, everybody, don't forget 8decades.com. For all your holiday shopping for cannabis needs, just go to 8decades.com. You can get whatever you want there. We have the best rolling tray in the market, ashtray, tool set. We have smoking apparatuses, we have clothing, we have
hemp clothing.
Yes, we have a beautiful scarf.
We have a beautiful merino wool and hemp blend scarf, knit scarf, and hat a nice beanie hat. They're really, really high quality, made by Young Maven with our 8 Decades logo on them. We just have some great things. And as many of you already know, we did a big price adjustment, and many of our items are more reasonably priced now. We've got promotions going on right now. There's always free shipping over $100. So check it out. And maybe you can get some of your Christmas goodies from our store.
And if you've supported 8 Decades so far, we appreciate you for shopping on our website or shopping in when you see us at one of these events. And as you support 8 Decades and Weedman 420 Chronicles, we can keep on doing this show because we don't advertise our stuff on Patreon to get paid. We don't have any sponsorship. My sponsor is 8 Decades.
Yes.
So as you support 8 Decades, you support the show, and we can keep on doing the show for everybody out there and getting you all the latest and greatest news about cannabis in the world.
One more thing, if I can say, we did finally launch our newsletter.
Yay!
Just in time for Black Friday,
Yay!
Green
High five,
Wednesday,
high five, high
Cyber
fives.
Monday.
Yes.
So that went out last week on Wednesday.
You did it.
I did it. So that had special coupon codes on it. So if you want to be part of the news of what we're doing, the events that we're attending, promotions that we're running, the latest, updated news about the podcast, whatever. I'm going to be doing these regularly. So if you want to get on the newsletter, you have to go on to the 8decades.com website, EIGHT, not the number. Go on our website and sign up for our newsletter. You'll automatically get free shipping over $50 on your first order. So please sign up so we can give you our info.
And we appreciate all the support out there from
Yes,
everybody
we do.
and supporting 8decades.com. Thank you so much. And you ready to get the show started?
I am.
I'd like to thank Heisen Terp Brothers again for getting me stoned before we start this show, but here we go. Lesser known marijuana component, CBG, the mother of all cannabinoids, is a promising therapeutic agent with potential to treat cancer and pain, this study says. Another study about another good cannabinoid. CBG is the mother where all cannabinoids get their start from. This is a little bit of a long article because they found a lot of information in this study, which is great. So this is just another great cannabinoid to help you with any ailments you have. So a new review of scientific research on a lesser-known cannabinoid, CBG, says the compound has the potential to modulate manipulative psychological processes, which could give it therapeutic power to alleviate various conditions, including cancer, metabolic pain, and inflammatory disorders, among others. Okay, that's the end of the article. Just start taking CBG, everybody. CBG has emerged as a potential therapeutic agent with a diverse range of effects, says the new published paper this month in the journal Molecules. Although research on CBG is still in the early stages, its unique molecular mechanism and promising therapeutic profile warrant further exploration. The research looks not only at the potential effects of CBG, but also its mechanisms of actions like delta-9 THC and CBD. It says CBG interacts with the body's cannabinoid receptors, but it also has a unique affinity for other receptors such as the A2AR and 5H21A receptors. Oh, a little different receptors, than the CB1 and the CB2. Whoa. The cannabinoid's diverse mechanisms, the report says, translate into a wide range of potential therapeutic applications, including neuroprotection and anti-inflammation, antibacterial properties, hypotension, cancer treatment, pain management, metabolic syndrome, also digestion, which isn't mentioned in here, also helps with digestion too. Some CBG users also report improved sleep. It adds, although this has not had yet been confirmed by clinical studies. The 10-person team behind the new review includes research from Guangdong University of Technology and Guangzhou, China, Cedars-Sinai Cancer Institute in Los Angeles, and the Beckman Research Institute of City of Hope in Duarte, California. Gangzhou University of Chinese Medicine at Sun Yat-sen University, also in Guangzhou. Authors said that while there have been some excellent reviews on CBG discussing pharmacological potential, the bioactivity of CBD and its analogs, the biomedical relevance and interactions with voltage-gated sodium channels, their own review differs from others that is discussed. the molecular mechanism of action of the therapeutic effects of CBG within different disease contexts. From there, the report runs through evidence of CBG's role in various applications. It points, for example, the possibility of neuroprotection, noting potential applications for treatment of neurodegenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and multiple sclerosis, noting that CBD treatment has been shown to improve motor function and reduce makers of stress in the brain. Some of the reviewed studies looked at CBG in combination with other cannabinoids. Authors noted, adding that studying CBG independently from other cannabinoids could pinpoint the distinct therapeutic properties and specific mechanisms in the context of the central nervous system. Regarding pain, authors pointed to the evidence suggesting CBG treatment can reduce pain sensitivity in mice, noting that one possibility explanation is that the cannabinoid might make it harder for pain signals to be transmitted effectively. The research unveils the potential of mechanisms for CBG indirect neuroprotective effects. By reducing pain signaling in the nervous system, CBG might offer relief from chronic pain conditions, they wrote. The finding adds to the growing body of evidence suggesting CBG's potential role in protecting the nervous system by managing pain. The report also looks at evidence for CBG's anti-inflammatory effects, which might be helpful in managing inflammatory bowel disease, including Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, allergic asthma, and liver injury. And it points to studies into cannabinoids' possibly antibacterial effects in the role in treating hypotension or vasoconstriction. Studies indicate that CBG may disrupt the bacterial cell membrane, a crucial barrier to cell survival, authors wrote. This disruption can lead to the leakage of essential cellular components and ultimately cell death. The cannabinoid appears to also inhibit the information of some biofilms, communities on bacteria that can be highly resistant to antibiotics. A new study are also looking at CBG in anti-cancer treatment, the paper notes, adding to a research that until recently focused on THC and CBD. Accumulating evidence has sustained the anti-tumorigenic properties of CBG, showcasing its efficiency in reducing cell proliferation, migration, and survival in various tumor types, it says, including prostate cancer, glioblastoma, colorectal carcinoma. Thank you. Pancreatic cancer and breast cancer. Appreciate you.
That strain is making you say the craziest combinations of words. You're adding extra parts.
There's a lot of crazy words.
I know there are.
I should have gave this article to you. Combining CBG with controversial chemotherapy holds promise for enhancing treatment efficiency, the report notes, though a mix of cannabinoids may also offer benefits in some cancers. Both CBG and CBD appear to suppress prostate cancer development in mice to some degree, for example, but the two in combination exhibited potent anti-cancer effects even in mice unresponsive to enzalutamide, androgen receptor agonist treatment.
Antagonist.
Thank you. It explains. Always got my back. As such, combination therapy may be attractive therapeutic option for prostate cancer models. Another condition authors considered was metabolic syndrome, which is linked to development of other ailments such as cardiovascular disease, liver disease, and type 2 diabetes. Recent studies on CBG provide a potential therapy strategy for metabolic syndrome, they wrote, noting that CBG, the sole known cannabinoid that activates the my God, these words are killing me, androgenic receptor. I'm going to spell it out for y'all. ADRENERGIC. Well, if you get it, you get $1. The review says CBG has been shown to reduce appetite and induce weight loss by blocking the CB1 receptors and to increase the activity of a brown tissue, BAT, which is responsible for burning calories and generating heat. HUM-234, a derivative of CBG, has been shown to prevent high-fat diet-induced weight gain and lower serum levels of liver enzymes ALT and AST. My God, these scientific words today. I'll tell you what, many of the studies evaluated in the new review involved research in cells or mouse models. In many cases, areas where CBG has been shown to be promising, human trials will be crucial to moving treatment forward, the research team said. As research progresses, CBG presents as a promising therapeutic agent with a unique molecular profile and a broad spectrum of potential benefits, they wrote. As deepen our understanding of CBG, it may lead to breakthroughs in treating complex conditions, ultimately improving patients' outcomes and expanding the scope of cannabinoid-based medicine. Further research, authors added, should focus on not only clinical trials, detailed mechanics studies, and optimized delivery systems, but also in its synergy with other cannabinoids and traditional medicines. The next decade could see CBG integrated into mainstream medical practices, the paper says. Wow. Revolutionizing the approach to many chronic and debilitating conditions. Despite ongoing obstacles to marijuana research generally, investigations of marijuana and many chemical components have expanded considerably as the nation's war on cannabis has waned. As a separate paper published earlier this year found a diverse array of lesser-known phytocannabinoids along with terpenes, flavonoids, alkaloids have even shown to demonstrate diverse pharmacological activities and could offer a multitude of therapeutic applications. Their antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and neuromodulatory effects position them in promising agents in treating neurodegenerative disorders. Some words I get, some words that just ain't coming out of the tongue right now.
It's all right.
It happens. Said that report, authored by a pair of researchers from the Center of Dementia Research and Nathan Klein Institute of Psychiatric Research in New York. I got that word right this time. The study followed.
Yeah, what did you call it before?
Psychiatric.
I know. What did you?
I don't even remember now.
It was like push pop or something.
Side charity.
Like a side charity. Side charity.
The study followed separate research published this summer into the lesser chemical components of marijuana, which found that minor cannabinoids may have anti-cancer effects on blood cancer. The research published in the journal Biofactors looked at minor cannabinoids and multiple myeloma testing responses to cells to the cannabinoids of CBG, CBC, CBN, and CBDV, as well as studying CBN in mouse model. Together, our results suggest that CBG, CBC, CBN, and CBDV can be promising anti-cancer agents for MM, authors wrote, due to the cytotoxic effects of MM cell lines and for CBN in the vivo xenograft mouse model of MM. There was a lot of xenos. But that's all that is so promising. And we did read that article, too, a while back ago, too. So they also noted that cannabinoids apparently beneficial effects on the bone in terms of reduction of MM cells evasion towards the bone and bone, mainly CBG and CBN. A more recent study, meanwhile, found that while it's plausible the terpenes produced by cannabis are responsible for modulating a marijuana high, is still unproven. A federally funded study published in May, meanwhile, found that terpenes could be potentially therapeutic for chronic neuropathic pain, finding that an injected dose of the compounds produced a roughly equal reduction in pain markers when compared to a smaller dose of morphine. Terpenes also appeared to enhance the efficiency of morphine when given in combination. We did read about that a while back. Unlike with morphine, however, none of the studied terpenes produced a meaningful rewarded response. That research found indicating that terpenes could be effective analgesics with no rewarding or dysphoric side effects. Another study published earlier this year looked at the collaborative interactions between cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, and other molecules in the plant, concluding that a better understanding of the relationships of various chemical components is crucial for unraveling cannabis' complete therapeutic potential. Other recent research funded by the National Institute of Drug Abuse found that the citrusy-smelling terpene in marijuana, D-limonene, could help ease anxiety and paranoia associated with THC. Researchers similarly said that the finding could help unlock the maximum therapeutic benefit of THC. A separate study last year found that cannabis products with a more diverse array of natural cannabinoids produce stronger psychoactive experiences in adults, which also lasted longer than the high generated by pure THC. An 2018 study found that patients suffering from epilepsy experienced better health outcomes with fewer adverse side effects when they used plant-based CBD extracts compared to purified CBD products. Scientists last year also discovered previously unidentified cannabis compounds called flavorants that they believe are responsible for the unique aromas of different varieties of marijuana. Previously, many had thought terpenes were responsible for the various smells produced by the plant. Similar phenomena are also beginning to be recorded around psychedelic plants, and I know I screwed that word up too. I'm so stoned.
Phenomena.
Phenomena. It gives you the giggles, see?
Phenomena.
Phenomena.
Oh my god, maybe it's something that happened when you
get stoned?
like turn 50, like your dad. You just have your own language.
Start making word. My dad used to do that too.
Dad?
My dad was the best at just going right through a word, and no one would notice.
Someone would gently correct him with a word.
So what is that word?
What's your point?
Phenomena.
Phenomena.
Mahamana. Phenomena. I should have known that word. It was fucking from the Muppets, right? Or from Sesame Street. Yeah. Phenomena. Right?
No, I like phenomena better.
I like phenomena better too. Similar phenomena, phenomena, are also beginning to be recorded around psychedelic plants and fungi. In March, for example, researchers published findings showing that the use of full-spectrum psychedelic mushrooms extract had a more powerful effect than chemically synthesized psilocybin alone. They said that findings imply that mushrooms like cannabis demonstrate an entourage effect. Hopefully you all got a lot of laughs from all my words. Phenomena. Psych charity. Phenomena. You like that phenomena, everybody? I never heard you laugh like that during a show in a hot minute.
Sorry.
Oh, I love it. Everybody else is laughing with you and at me. I love it. I'm glad I'm part of everybody's fun.
Phenomena.
There's always a word I screw up on in the show.
Okay.
It's good.
I mean, we are just human.
We are sometimes.
We're not getting paid to be like newscasters on NBC. So,
but actually, if I was a newscaster and I said that and everybody laughed at me, it'd make
funny.
The news even better. So why cannabis for pain management is not a one-size-fits-all?
Yeah,
Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
This is another take on, and this is written by Terrell Newton, who's a medical doctor, MD. And just before I get into it, I can agree. I've been using cannabis for pain management, and I do not have it figured out. Pain is very challenging to figure out, and treating it with cannabis is effective, but some things are more effective than others. And so it is not a one-size-fits-all, because not only are our conditions different, but our pain tolerance is different, and the products that we use are different.
Yes.
Depending on where you get them from, whether you grow them, all these things, what you're using. So
there's been certain strains that I have smoked.
That are historically,
There's certain strains that I have smoked that actually increased pain because senses heightened, things heightened.
Yeah.
And the pain was like, oh my God, why is my back hurting more?
Right. Or you feel like your legs are broken because you're like so couch locked.
But then it actually, after a while, the pains goes away and I'm still high. I just think it's the initial heightenedness of some strains. They're just like, whoa. And then all of a sudden you get that the back pain doesn't go away. It intensifies more. It hasn't happened much, but on a couple strains I've noticed, and actually, O-Dog, our daughter, has said the same thing too. There were certain strains when she did smoke that like made her migraine a little worse because it was a very heady strain or something like that. So it just depends on the strains and what you're smoking. So go ahead, sorry.
As more states legalize cannabis for medical use, there is a growing interest in cannabis as a tool for pain management. Faced with the impacts of the opioid epidemic, a growing elderly population, and the younger generation's interest in alternative wellness options, it's a shift our society is ready for. The loosening of cannabis restrictions has primed us to educate ourselves more on what cannabis can do for pain management. My experience treating patients as an interventional pain physician, coupled with the latest research findings, affirms cannabis is a versatile tool for managing many forms of pain. Cannabis is already widely accepted for use by cancer patients to relieve the side effects of chemotherapy, and I predict that a customizable approach will help many more patients in years to come. Chronic pain affects approximately 50 million adults in the U.S. and 1 in 5 adults globally. Cannabis has the potential to aid in treatments without the severe side effects of long-time opioid use. Research shows that cannabis is safer than opioids, which result in over 70,000 deaths annually. Do you hear that? 70,000 deaths annually. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
And it carries a 20% addiction rate, while cannabis has an addiction rate, which I almost took this out, but this is a physician, this is a doctor saying this, and I don't know where he's getting this from, but he's saying that it has an addiction rate, which I've never read anything that says cannabis is addictive. I have read that cannabis can be habit forming. And there is a difference between addiction and habit forming, because addiction is chemical, it's brain, and it's a response, it's a demand, and a behavior is something learned and acquired and something that can be stopped. And addiction is more challenging. So I challenge that little quote. That's my little input there. Additionally, one study even shows that medical cannabis can reduce opioid use by up to 64%. That's huge among chronic pain patients. The key to cannabis's effectiveness is in the science of the plant. Cannabis contains over 100 cannabinoids, with the most known being tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and cannabidiol, or CBD. Cannabis enthusiasts likely know these two well. However, beginners are often surprised to learn the role that cannabinoids play alongside a complex network in the body known as the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. The ECS, everybody has one, plays an important role in regulating various physiological processes, including pain sensation, using receptors and signaling molecules that interact with cannabinoids found in the plant. The synergy between THC, CBD, and many other minor cannabinoids is known as the entourage effect, believed to enhance the overall pain-relieving benefits of cannabis. This combination allows for the potential to reduce pain while minimizing some of the undesirable psychoactive effects associated with high doses of THC. Early on in my career, I was surprised to learn that our bodies have an entire system in place already that is ready to interact with cannabis, and yet this plant was not a top form of pain management. It was then that I realized the strong need for studies, research, and education on the endocannabinoid system, and I committed to work to help my patients learn more about its potential. A major benefit of cannabis treatments for pain management is that they can be personalized for each patient. As an interventional pain physician, I recommend specific terpenes for tailored approaches to pain management. There are different balances of THC, CBD, and other compounds that can address specific concerns without creating unwanted side effects. From inhalation to edibles, sublingual tinctures, and oils, there are many forms of cannabis ideal for pain management depending on a patient's conditions and preferences. Research has also shown that specific types of pain affect men and women differently. The more we uncover, the more we can use cannabis as a tool to tailor pain management for each person. For example, a study has shown that for women experiencing conditions like fibromyalgia and migraines, which are often associated with endocannabinoid system deficiencies, CBD's ability to inhibit fatty acid amide hydrolase plays a crucial role. So this fatty acid amide hydrolase is also called FAAH, and it's an enzyme responsible for breaking down anandamide, one of the body's key endocannabinoids involved in pain regulation. By inhibiting FAAH, CBD helps increase anandamide levels, enhancing the body's natural pain-relieving and anti-inflammatory mechanisms. That's deep. Preclinical studies on animals have shown promising evidence that this action can be particularly beneficial for managing widespread pain in fibromyalgia and the intense throbbing pain of migraines. And though more studies are needed for validation, men with conditions like cluster headaches or gout may benefit from cannabis strains with a balanced THC to CBD ratio, enhanced by beta-carophylline and humulene, which target inflammation and pain at the receptor level without significant sedation. Unlike opioids, cannabis may also address the emotional impacts of living with pain. Those with chronic pain are also more likely to have depression, anxiety, and/or insomnia. Many patients find medical cannabis offers relief from both physical and emotional ailments. The nature of pain itself continues to be studied. As we uncover more about the source of pain, whether from nerve damage, emotional trauma, or physical injury, studies are being conducted on how cannabis can treat each. This will lead to even more specific treatments and support for individual patients. It takes outreach to patients to make them comfortable with approaching cannabis as a pain management treatment. Decades-long propaganda against the plant and a constantly shifting regulatory landscape keep many would-be patients from seeking cannabis as treatment. When cannabis becomes better understood by the public, as well as more accepted into pop culture through sports and entertainment, people will become more open to using it as a form of treatment. According to one retired player, many NBA players use cannabis for various purposes. The NFL has also partnered with 2 universities to study cannabinoids for traumatic brain injuries. Much like these regulatory changes taking place in states and communities around the country, professional sports leagues are also beginning to explore cannabis as a potential treatment for athletes, something I'm hopeful will continue to evolve. The potential rescheduling of cannabis at the federal level could also mark a turning point in pain management, opening doors for further research and broader access to tailored cannabis treatments. If cannabis moves away from its Schedule I status, the stigma and legal barriers hindering its use in clinical settings may diminish, allowing for a more patient-centered approach. As societal attitudes shift toward greater acceptance of cannabis use, both medically and recreationally, it's crucial to educate the public on responsible consumption and the nuanced effects that different strains can have on anxiety symptoms. I always say my favorite pain management product is the one that helps the patient. And the future of cannabis for pain management is a future where patients' needs are listened to and treated with the utmost precision.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rolls right into the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got any of that Phenomena for me?
Phenomena.
Phenomena. So I'm Phenomeno, and you're Phenomena.
Something like that, yeah.
The endocannabinoid system's role in ADHD, insights from a comprehensive scoping review. A recently published review examined the possible connections between the endocannabinoid system and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder symptoms. The review, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, Cannabis Use, and Endocannabinoid System, a scoping review, was published in the Development Psychobiology in September of 2024, noting the prevalence of cannabis use and misuses in individuals with ADHD, and the lack of understanding between cannabis use and ADHD. Researchers conducted a scoping review of preclinical and clinical evidence of the ECS and the ADHD. No specific reviews have been done yet in this area, they noted. To examine the potential of therapeutic effects and influence on the ECS, researchers searched PubMed, SciInfo, Embase, and the Cochrane Library of Studies published up to March of 2022 and examined data from relevant clinical and preclinical studies. They closely examined 13 of the studies, data from 5 preclinical studies, 5 clinical studies examining effects of cannabis on cognition, and 2 clinical studies examining effects of cannabis of ADHD symptoms were presented in tables. Data from the preclinical study suggests that the ECS plays a role in regulating neurocognitive functions that are dysregulated in ADHD. In particular, the study suggested persistent adolescent-like behavior in adults and is mediated by cannabinoid 1 receptor, the CB1R function. The ECS modulates impulsivity, inhibitory control, which provides a possible target for managing attention-related deficits. Data from the clinical studies were sparse, the researchers noted, and should be interpreted with caution. Data focused on the ECS and executive function, inhibition control, and impulsivity, and ADHD symptomatology. Some of the findings from the data included THC administrative impaired executive function during the continuous performance task, suggesting ECS involvement in ADHD-related abnormal default mode network, the DMN activity. ADHD diagnosis impacted executive function more significantly than cannabis abuse. Some surveys showed that cannabis use improved some ADHD symptoms, yet other studies found no improvement in symptoms when using cannabinoid medications. Finding from this review suggests both potential therapeutic benefits and detrimental drug interactions for individuals with ADHD using cannabinoids. Researchers noted in the concluding remarks, despite the growing popular opinion that cannabis and cannabinoids may be a therapeutic agent for ADHD symptoms, several critical questions remain unanswered. More rigorous and comprehensive studies are needed to fully understand the safety and efficiency of cannabinoid therapies in individuals with ADHD. The research received funding from the National Institute of Health and 2 internal grants from Thomas Jefferson University. More to come on that. You know, the more we study, you know, it's better than taking Adderall. I know some people will get pissed at me for saying that because some people need it. And I'm not saying it's if it's what you use to help you, I get it. But there's better ways.
Well, there are, and because you have ADHD, it's my understanding, it doesn't mean you have to take medicine. Medicine helps, but it also creates some other problems.
Right.
And there are other beliefs that cognitive behavior therapy is enough to modify and succeed in a life with ADHD. So it's my understanding there's two approaches. There may even be multiple others. So how come cannabis couldn't be beneficial in both? Maybe it wouldn't be beneficial for the person taking the pharmaceutical because it would kind of counter I don't know. I know
a lot of people that do both.
They have
ADHD and they take Adderall and they smoke weed. And they smoke a hell of a lot of weed.
Probably because the Adderall makes them so racy. And,
right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it doesn't look like they're ever high.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. But then for the people who use cognitive behavior therapy, I could see cannabis being very, very beneficial. I have always joked, and my family has always joked, that I have ADHD and maybe some little OCD. But it's always an ongoing joke.
Right.
It's not things to laugh about. They're both very disabling and challenging diagnoses to have. But I do definitely have things about my personality that fit into those categories at a mild level, maybe.
I'm not saying
But I
anything.
think that cannabis and I think a cognitive approach can really work together.
There you go. Nice.
Sorry.
That's
I think
okay.
I just talked in a big circle.
No, you were right.
You know.
I think you were spot on for somebody that may, or you haven't been diagnosed with it, have you?
No.
Right.
No.
But I live with you, so for 30
So you know.
years. I don't. So I wasn't saying anything. I was just listening.
Helps.
It does. It does actually help you.
It really does.
I could see when you take your tincture during the day, it gets you concentrated and focused.
I can stay focused on one thing. I'm not so distracted. It just calms me down.
Right.
And yeah.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
There's a unspoken etiquette of using cannabis with your parents.
Yes.
I remember the first time I got high with my dad. Mm-hmm. I was 20, I believe. And I watched my dad smoke weed my whole life, but never got to partake with him. And I think I was 20 the first time I smoked with him. And it was fun. He made me laugh. And then we ate a bunch of food. Because he always got the munchies. Two of his favorite snacks were salt and vinegar Pringles, which were always by the couch.
You call them Fringles.
Fringles, yes. As you know, I'll know I speak like my dad, I guess. Fringles as he called them. And his other thing was he took sour cream, that picante,
paste picante
salsa, put it on a plate, and gave you a bowl of chips, and that was wonderful.
That is really good. Don't mix it though. Like you got to scoop.
Yeah, he would scoop each one
Yeah.
individual. But boy, oh boy, was that
So good.
It was like a munchy heaven that night with my dad, as we called him, Poppy. So, but there is an unspoken etiquette with your parents. Tell us about it, Mrs Weedman.
So, with cannabis consumption becoming more commonplace and legalization spreading, people are no longer hiding in the shadows to have a smoke. The annual holiday Cousins Walk is a beloved tradition, and THC drinks are making their way into the apple cider and eggnog. But what if your parents have become canna curious and you're considering inviting them for a toke? You may feel awkward just thinking about asking your parents to light up, but if you can get past the initial cringe, you might be rewarded. Search the term "smoke weed with parents" on Twitter or Reddit, and you'll find a string of mostly ecstatic reviews claiming smoking weed with family members can be deeply bonding experiences, as well as a fun time. But of course, you have to do it right. In the cannabis world, there's an unspoken rule book for almost every occasion, even smoking with mom and dad. There's a way to make it cringy and a way to make it fun. Fortunately, we've got everything you need to be sure it's fun. Rule 1, communicate. We get that talking to your parents about cannabis is easier said than done, but if you're going to do it, pick a time when they're not stressed or busy. Then remain cool, calm, and collected when you pop the question. Try saying something like, "Hey, so you probably know that I enjoy smoking weed. Would you have any interest in smoking with me sometime?" If your parent says no, don't sweat it. You can always revisit the topic down the road or find another family member to smoke with. If they say yes, then let's continue. Rule 2. Consume high-quality products. If your parents have agreed to get high with you, you'll want to provide them with the best products possible to avoid a negative experience. Seek out regulated cannabis, preferably with a higher concentration of CBD, since pot back in your parents' day was a lot less potent. If you don't have a stash for them to pick from, go to a licensed dispensary together. I think that sounds really fun.
I think it'd be fun.
To go, yeah. Because they might be like anxious about going, and it could be just a fun moment and a good memory. It may be a great educational experience. You can explore different cannabis products such as joints, buds, vapes, edibles, tinctures. And once you pick your method of getting high, you can look at various cannabis strains and decide what fits their mood. Rule 3, be prepared for anything. Before your parents come over, you'll need to do some prep. First, make sure you have enough weed to go around and snacks for the inevitable munchies. You'll also want to have plenty of water on deck to stay hydrated. Second, have something to do while you're waiting for the high to kick in, especially if you're using edibles. Have some games to play, movies to watch, or topics of conversation at the ready. You could also take time to have dinner. Rule 5, remember, safety first. If you don't all live in the same place, make arrangements for the end of the night. If your parents come over to your place, you could set them up in a guest bedroom or order them an Uber at the end of the night. Or if one of your parents don't smoke, they could be the designated driver. And 6, you know this one, start low, go slow. When consuming with someone who's new to the game or hasn't consumed in many years, it's important to ease them in. If you're smoking or vaping, have your parents take one small hit and then wait a few minutes before deciding to take another. With edibles, patience is even more important. Have mom and dad start with 2.5 milligrams and wait for a minimum of 30 minutes. Infused foods can take a long time to kick in, and some people may not feel the effect for up to 2 hours. It's far better to decide to take more than wishing you had taken less from the start.
Absolutely.
Smoking weed with your parents could be the most uncomfortable thing you've ever done, but it could also be extraordinary. You may find a new favorite family activity or have that heart-to-heart you've been craving with them. You'll never know unless you try.
There you go. Be fun smoking with your parents.
Yeah. I've smoked. We went to a Jimmy Buffett concert. I think you were working.
I was.
Yeah. And we all tailgated. It was all family.
Yep.
And everybody was smoking weed and having drinks. So it really wasn't like out of the ordinary.
Right.
Maybe we were all kind of silly because my mom smoked. And then my mom and my sister got sick.
They got too high.
They got too high.
Yep. They should.
It's the same sister who still, every time if she has edibles, she's fine. If she smokes weed, she gets nauseous.
Yep.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost ruined your trip in Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. She recovered.
Autoimmune conditions are rising fast in American medicine. Can cannabis help? Why are autoimmune conditions on the rise, and how can cannabis help? Autoimmune disease refers to a group of medical conditions that occur as a result of the immune system attacking your own tissue. In a normal human body, the immune system is responsible for protecting the body by producing antibodies that prevent toxins, cancer cells, viruses from harming the body. However, when one is struck by an autoimmune disorder, the immune system is no longer able to distinguish the difference between dangerous cells and healthy cells. As a result, the healthy cells are attacked too. Today, we know of around 100 different kinds of autoimmune conditions. Some of the most common examples of autoimmune conditions include rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, and Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS, to name a few. Others include Graves' disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, psoriasis, and I was doing so well until I got to those last two. Psoriasis, thank you. And vasculitis, I think it's pronounced. Vasculitis.
Vasculitis.
Thanks. Yeah. According to the National Health Council, around 50 million Americans are affected by autoimmune disease today. This is a conservative estimate. Wow, 50 million Americans. And that's a conservative estimate, considering that several autoimmune conditions are tricky to treat and so many people go undiagnosed for a long period of time. It's worrisome to know that there are more people developing autoimmune disease these days, many of which have reached levels comparable to epidemics.
Wow.
But cannabis can help.
Yeah.
How cannabis can help curb and manage autoimmune diseases. Now, one single cause is responsible for the alarming growth of autoimmune disease, though there are several factors to play. While there isn't just one cause we can't point at, it's certain the reason lie in our environment. After all, human genetics have changed significantly, yet the chemicals, toxins, and pollutants in our food and everyday items have risen dramatically. In addition, people are getting less sleep than ever, stress rates are through the roof, and people are constantly worried. There's a clear link between psychological stress and physical health, as well as immunity, which is why it isn't unusual. It's even common to see many autoimmune diseases cases flare up after people experience severe stress caused by grief, an accident, job loss, or a death of a loved one. These highly stressful and traumatic conditions wreak havoc on the body's immune response, causing inflammation all over the body. CBG. Conventional treatments prescribed to treatment autoimmune conditions are focused on taming inflammation. These usually include steroids, but also some non-steroidal drugs. These drugs often come with unwanted side effects, but research has shown that cannabis can work with the endocannabinoid system through THC, CBD, and as we just learned, some CBG too, as well as other cannabinoids to stimulate similar results. In one study, for example, we could see the clear association of the endocannabinoid system and neurodegenerative and inflammatory processes seen in multiple sclerosis and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I said that right. Damn. There has been an increasing number of studies proving the efficiency of cannabis for treating several autoimmune conditions. Cannabis for multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is one of the autoimmune conditions where a growing number of studies have come to support the therapeutic benefits of cannabis for. In a 2024 study, parents with multiple sclerosis reported several improvements in quality of life after using cannabis-based medical products. For the study of British investigators analyzed the impact of cannabis medical products made with either oil or extracts in 141 patients who were enrolled in the UK Medical Cannabis Registry. That's pretty good. In another study from 2023, patients with multiple sclerosis reported significant improvements in symptoms after cannabis use. For the study, researchers from the Dent Neurological Institute of Buffalo, New York, analyzed the medical records of 141 patients with multiple sclerosis who were also legally authorized to consume medical marijuana products. They then analyzed the data from patients after 1 to 4 follow-up sessions after the initial session of cannabis therapy. 65% of patients consumed the 1-to-1 THC CBD tinctures. According to the authors, the result of the study indicated that the use of medical cannabis to alleviate symptoms of MS is largely with improvements in pain, 72% of patients, muscle spasticity, 48% of patients, and sleep disturbances, 40% of patients frequently reported. Anecdotal evidence. While more studies are needed to determine cannabis effects on other autoimmune conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, we can rely on anecdotal evidence. In 2020, data from the medical journal Rheumatology revealed that patients who have this condition, along with those who have lupus and fibromyalgia, consume cannabis. In fact, it was reported that marijuana was extremely common, especially for patients with fibromyalgia. In the meta-analysis, we found that 1 in 6 patients suffering from rheumatologic disease actively consumes cannabis, reducing pain reduction. A favorable effect of cannabis on pain in our meta-analysis reinforces the idea that cannabis could be caused for analgesic purposes, the authors concluded. Cannabis is a safe and natural way to help prevent the treat symptoms of autoimmune disease and target inflammation as its root, and is proven a natural way to help cope with stress, pain, insomnia, and inflammation, and while protecting the brain. However, it is important to ensure you medicate with clean, organic sources of marijuana. Yes, yes. Know your sources for sure.
That's great.
Yep. Cell phones. People are always on them, even when they're driving, right?
Yep.
People are saying it's a bigger problem than marijuana-impaired driving. Americans say in a new poll. Tell about us, Ms. Weedman.
I'm freezing, Mr. Weedman.
I know. I had to lower the heat
It's
down,
like
though.
20 degrees out.
It's on my computer, it says with the wind chill, it's like 15.
No. Americans view driving under the influence of marijuana as one of the issues they're least concerned about when compared to other dangerous behaviors, such as operating a vehicle while distracted by cell phones, speeding, or getting behind the wheel after drinking alcohol, according to a new Pew Research Center poll. This Pew survey involved interviews with 5,410 American adults between August 12th and 18th. The survey, which looked at public opinion on traffic concerns, found 82% of Americans still regard driving while high on cannabis to be better. Not to be better. Let me say that again. Americans still regard driving while high on cannabis to be either a major problem or a minor problem in their area, but respondents ranked it in lowest among 6 behaviors included in the survey. 96% of respondents said they considered driving while distracted by cell phones a problematic issue in their community. Another 94% also said speeding was a problem. 93% said aggressive driving behaviors such as tailgating are a concern. 92% identified drunk driving as a problem where they live. The poll also examined differences in opinion among different regions and states. Out of the behaviors we asked about, U.S. adults are least concerned about people driving under the influence of marijuana in their area, Pew said. The analysis noted that respondents living in states that have legalized cannabis were slightly more likely than people in states where it is illegal to say driving while high is a major problem in their community. Researchers didn't provide theories about potential reasons for that difference, but one possibility is that many states that have enacted legalization have amplified education and awareness about the issue, with public service announcements and strategies meant to raise attention to laws prohibiting the activity, for example. Concerns about the implications of legalization on traffic safety are a consistent theme of policy debates about reform, with prohibitionists frequently claiming that states with legal cannabis markets see increased cases of impaired driving and accidents. There's been lack of scientific consensus on that argument, though, with numerous studies reaching divergent conclusions about the relationship between the policy change and traffic trends. Legalization supporters and opponents are broadly aligned on the need to prevent cannabis-impaired driving, but advocates have long pointed out that the issue exists in legal and non-legal states alike. They argue that enacting a regulated framework for marijuana presents key opportunities for policymakers to educate the public about the dangers of driving after consuming cannabis and allocate targeted resources to combat the issue, often utilizing revenue from legal marijuana sales. Meanwhile, a recent scientific review found that most available research on cannabis-impaired driving identified no significant linear correlations between blood THC and measures of driving, although there was an observed relationship between levels of cannabinoid and reduced performance in some more complex driving situations. In a separate report earlier this year, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said there's relatively little research backing the idea that THC concentration in the blood can be used to determine impairment, calling into question laws in several states that set per se limits for cannabinoid metabolites. Similarly, a Department of Justice researchers said in February that states may need to get away from that idea that marijuana impairment can be tested based on the concentration of THC in a person's system. If you have chronic users versus infrequent users, they have very different concentrations correlated to different effects. Francis Scott, a physical scientist at the National Institute of Justice Office of Investigative and Forensic Sciences under the DOJ, said. That issue was also examined in a recent federally funded study that identified two different methods of more accurately testing for recent THC use that accounts for the fact that metabolites of the cannabinoid can stay present in a person's system for weeks or months after consumption. Back in 2022, Senator John Hickenlooper from Colorado sent a letter to the Department of Transportation and the National Highway Traffic Safety Authority seeking an update on the status of a federal report into testing THC-impaired drivers. The department was required to complete the report under a large-scale infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden signed, but it missed that deadline and is unclear how much longer it will take. Last summer, the Congressional Report for a Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies bill said that the House Appropriations Committee continues to support the development of an objective standard to measure marijuana impairment and a related field sobriety test to ensure highway safety. They're never going to be able to figure that out. A study published in 2019 concluded that those who drive at the legal THC limit, which is typically between 2 and 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, were not statistically more likely to be involved in an accident compared to people who haven't used marijuana. Separately, the Congressional Research Service in 2019 determined that while marijuana consumption can affect a person's response times and motor performance, studies of the impact of marijuana consumption on a driver's risk of being involved in a crash have produced conflicting results, with some studies finding little or no increased risk of a crash from marijuana usage. Another study from 2022 found that smoking CBD-rich marijuana had no significant impact on driving ability, despite the fact that all study participants exceeded the per se limit for their THC in their blood. We'll continue to follow research on this topic, and I feel it's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is important.
but they just can't figure it out.
FDA gives green light. Oh, sorry. Political, state, and business news, Mrs. Weedman. FDA gives green light to PTSD marijuana study in veterans. The FDA has approved a clinical trial of the study that affects the cannabis on veterans with PTSD. The study, led by the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, will involve 322 veterans with moderate to severe PTSD. Participants will use either cannabis or a placebo and report their symptoms through a mobile app. Man, just give them all weed. Don't worry about the placebo. This is a part of a large push for more medical research into cannabis as a potential treatment for veterans, especially since many veterans have reported benefits from using cannabis over traditional medications. Yes. Can big alcohol help the cannabis industry? The cannabis industry is facing regulatory challenges. Could benefit from big alcohol's lobbying power and marketing research. Alcohol companies which already invest in cannabis could influence federal policies, helping to open up markets. The partnership would mirror how bottled water brands expand via established soda companies. Cannabis-infused beverages could become a joint product, and both industries could capitalize on shared consumer basis. The next 14 months are crucial for cannabis reform, with big alcohol potentially playing a key role in shaping its future. Metric debuts labeling features to ease cannabis inventory challenges. Metric Cannabis Track and Trace software provider has produced a new retail ID labeling feature to streamline cannabis inventory management. The system integrates QR codes with product information and inventory barcodes, simplifying processes for retailers by reducing manual scans. Oh, thank goodness. It also provides consumers with product authenticity, details, and lab testing results. Initially launched in California, the system has shown potential to cut distribution times and improve recall efficiencies. Retailers involved in pilot programs report time savings and fewer data entry errors, with plans for expansion to more states. That's nice. It's knowing what I know about the industry. Here in Illinois, they use BioTrack, which is booty, and it's a pain in the ass to log everything in, and everything has to go through BioTrack. It's just a hassle. Oh my God, it's just a lot of shit goes wrong along the way. So, smart approaches to marijuana response to claims to collude with the DEA. The prohibitionist group says cannabis rescheduling advocates are attempting to create a sideshow of the DEA's hearing process. Smart approach to marijuana, SAM, is facing accusations of colluding with the DEA to influence cannabis policy inappropriately. The controversy revolves around claims that SAM had unlawfully communications with the DEA during discussions on rescheduling cannabis from Schedule 1 to 3. Critics argue that SAM, an anti-cannabis group, may have had undue influence on the DEA's decision-making process, raising concerns about transparency and impartially in the rescheduling debate. Both the DEA and SAM were ordered to respond to these allegations by November 25th, because as of today, December 2nd, 2024, the DEA is attempting to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 under the CSA to Schedule 3. The Drug Enforcement Administration DEA administered law tribunal's preliminary hearings today gets underway on the U.S. Department of Justice proposal to reschedule cannabis. It starts under the cloud of allegations regarding the agency's bias towards anti-cannabis fractions. Now, don't forget, if you can watch that on YouTube, that's where I was watching it, and boy, oh boy, one, it was a snoozer. I mean, that judge had no personality, like this wall right here.
He's just reading.
No personality. Sorry, Yuki. Knocking on the wall doesn't help. Yeah, it's okay, girl. Thank you. That's what happens when you have a good watchdog. As soon as she hears a thug. But yeah, so today I was watching it for a little bit, and boy, oh boy, man, that judge is just like, it was like nothing. It was like this. And I watched for about 45 minutes, and man, I feel bad for these people that are going up against this judge and what they're going to. This is just a preliminary, too. Oh, gosh. Whew. Snoozer. You need to give him some fucking edibles or something. Gosh. Trump CDC director said marijuana is a gateway drug and thinks it's lunacy to believe cannabis has medical use. Well, I think you're Dr. David Weldon. I think you're a lunacy.
Yeah.
That should be your name.
Yeah.
And it's not a gateway drug. It's been proven. And dismissed. And he dismissed its medical benefits. Crazy.
Read a couple reviews.
Right. Read all the ones I've just read.
Quit being
right?
dumb.
Yeah. It's Dr. Weldon. Cannabis industry is a apparent target of Everest ransomware, security experts warn. The Everest ransomware group is reportedly targeting the cannabis industry, according to security experts. Everest lists cannabis companies on the dark web blog using these name and shame tactics to pressure victims into paying ransoms. The group typically sells unauthorized access to their cyber criminals. Cannabis businesses are urged to enhance cybersecurity measures, especially with the third-party vendors, as they are growing target for these attacks. The Cannabis Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, Cannabis ISAO, emphasizes the need for collective defense against such cyber threats. Protect your shit. Federal Appeals Court hears challenge to gun ban for marijuana consumers. A federal appeals court is reviewing the gun ban of marijuana consumers. The Justice Department seeks to reverse a previous ruling that declared the ban unconstitutional. The case centers on Jared Michael Harrison, who was charged in Oklahoma for possessing cannabis and a firearm. Judges are debating whether marijuana use makes gun owners more dangerous and his law should only apply to intoxicated users. The outcome could have wide implications for cannabis consumers' Second Amendment rights. Connecticut moves to finalize legal pot regulations. Connecticut is finalizing cannabis regulations almost 2 years after legalizing recreational sales. The new rules proposed by the Department of Consumer Protection (DCP) aim to provide clarity and consistency for the industry. Public comments are open until January 10th of 2024. The state has collected $28.4 million in cannabis taxes so far. Additionally, the DCP sets transaction limits, but is allowed to multiple purchases in a day. Medical marijuana patients face different restrictions. Approval from the Legislative Review Committee is required before the regulations take effect. FDA greenlight study of marijuana as PTSD treatment for vets. The clinically trialed study will give veterans commercially and medically available cannabis products to look at real-world uses as assesses the impacts of post-traumatic stress disorders, like we talked about earlier. Michigan legal marijuana market is poised to surpass $10 billion in total recreation sales by the end of the year since start. $10 billion. There's a lot of
That's
biggies.
Insane.
Yes. The court case that could upend cannabis legalization efforts. A group of cannabis operators, including Verano Holdings and several Massachusetts-based companies, filed a lawsuit against the Attorney General Merrick Garland on October 26, 2023. Challenging the federal cannabis prohibition, they argued that the Controlled Substance Act, CSA, is outdated, causing legal risks and limiting access to financial services. The case set for oral arguments on December 5th, 2023 claims the set for oral arguments on December 5th, 2024 claims the law hinders interstate commerce and public safety. The government counters that the plaintiffs lack legal standings as they can't prove harm from the federal ban while state markets are respected. Colorado cannabis companies have a new strategy to attract more hesitant consumers. Get this, Mrs. Weedman. Weaker weed. Low-dose cannabis products are on the products in demand right now, industry leader says. What has Mr. Weedman been talking about?
We've been talking about that forever.
Forever. And see, here's the thing. You scare people away. And new people that want to experiment with cannabis because they're hearing good things about it are afraid because they're afraid to see if they take something too crazy, they're not being taught right, whatever. This is good for Colorado, but it should be an industry standard all across the country. Just because you make more money on high THC weed, you ain't bringing in new consumers to the cannabis industry because they're afraid of cannabis.
Right.
They got stoned one time from something they smoked with a friend of theirs.
And they didn't like how they felt.
Right. Instead of looking at more, we need to attract more consumers. We need to attract more people that are cannabis curious, more new people to our end. Maybe some people want to get away from drinking. Maybe some people want to get away from this. Maybe people just want to experiment with cannabis because they've heard good things about it. But they tried something that fucked them up because you're giving them 30%. Yeah. Or they're getting a 200 milligram bag of edibles and don't know how much to take. This is good, but this needs to be an industry standard. In Colorado, cannabis companies are responding to increased demand for low-dose products, catering to a new and inexperienced users seeking milder effects for anxiety and sleep issues. Dispensaries like Terrapin Care Station are now offering a variety of low-dose cannabis items, including gummies, tinctures, and vapes. Brands are getting dialed in and are innovating with balanced cannabinoid ratios to offer lighter experiences, such as products combining THC, CBD, and CBN for anxiety relief and sleep. Despite the trends, some companies like corporate companies like cannabis remain focused on higher potency products. This shift reflects broader changes in consumer preferences and move towards more diverse cannabis offerings. Even offer. It doesn't always have to be about, I mean, trust me, I love THC, okay? But start offering different cannabinoids too,
Right.
but with no THC in it. Or you take one that has 1 milligram of THC, CBD, and THCV, and you love it.
It's nice.
It's nice, right?
Yeah.
Low dose.
Yep.
We gave it to a family member who's not a big cannabis user, likes edibles, but doesn't like a lot of THC. We gave her that, and she was like,
loves
this is great, you know? Where'd you get these? You know, so we got to understand something. There's got to be something in it for everybody. Cannabis is for everybody. It's for everybody.
It doesn't have to just be about getting baked.
Right.
That's the recreational part of it.
Right.
But there's a whole other therapeutic and medicinal side of it. Yeah.
Will the delayed cannabis license lottery slow the rollout of Minnesota's marijuana market? Minnesota's cannabis license lottery, crucial for starting the state's marijuana market, has been delayed due to legal challenges. The lottery, which would have allowed social equity applicants to pre-qualify for licenses, is critical for starting cultivation ahead of the market's 2025 launch. A judge's decision to send the case to Court of Appeals has raised concerns about the delay, which may reduce supply for retailers at market launch. The state plans to open a broader application process in early 2025. Missouri marijuana sales produced 3 times as much tax revenue as projected. Over the past 12 months, Missouri's legal cannabis program has generated $240 million in new sales tax revenue for state and local governments across Missouri. Of that total, $143 million has gone to state government, with an additional $97 million generated for local Missouri governments. The figures are on top of the millions in licensing fees and payroll taxes that cannabis industry pays each year. Veterans Health Care is the single largest recipient of these funds. That's awesome. Idaho officials say marijuana activists can begin collecting signatures to put legalization measures on the 2026 ballot. Idaho officials have approved a marijuana legalization petition for the 2026 ballot, allowing activists to begin collecting signatures. The measures, backed by the group Kind Idaho, would decriminalize personal marijuana use and cultivation for adults 21 and older. It permits up to 12 plants and 8 ounces of harvested cannabis. You're going to get a lot more on 12 plants if you're growing that than 8 ounces, excluding commercial sales. Signature gathering is set to continue through April of 2026, requiring 70,725 valid signatures across the state. This proposal follows previous failed attempts to legalize medical cannabis. Cannabis caregivers and large grow sites will soon be illegal in Hawaii, impacting thousands. Hawaii is facing a crisis as a legal change threatens medical marijuana access for thousands of patients. Starting December 31st, 2024, caregivers who currently grow cannabis for patients will no longer be permitted to do so, and community grow sites will close. The ban could severely impact patients, especially those who rely on caregivers for their medication, due to the physical limitations of financial constraints that make dispensaries inaccessible. Hawaii state legislators have admitted responsibility for the failure to address this issue, leaving patients with limited options for obtaining cannabis. And I've read that they're trying to fix that before December 31st.
That's
so
good.
Come on, Hawaii. Yale Center for Science in Cannabis and Cannabinoids unveils first ever pilot award winners. The Yale Center for Science of Cannabis and Cannabinoids, YC Scan, has announced the winners of its inaugural pilot award program, granting over $600,000 to 14 researchers from Yale School of Medicine. The funding will support various studies of the impact of cannabis and cannabinoids on mental health, neurodevelopment, and covering topics like fetal brain development, adolescent brain changes, and therapeutic use of pain. The aim is to advance cannabis science and share findings with healthcare professionals and the public. Nice. 22 applicants in Florida were approved for MMTC licenses. On Tuesday, last Tuesday, the state's official of medical marijuana use announced 22 out of the original 74 companies were selected to receive letters of intent to approve their license applications. This marks a significant step for the companies hoping to enter Florida, expanding medical cannabis market. We actually know one that is from Illinois here that got a license. Good for them. Congratulations. Massachusetts Senator Warren leads push for marijuana reform prior to Trump admin. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ron Wyden, along with Representatives Barbara Lee and others, urged Biden administration to take further action on marijuana reform before the term ends. He's also got to pardon some people that are in prison for nonviolent cannabis crimes, which he made a promise 4 years ago to do. And he's also been quoted saying that no one should be in jail for cannabis.
Yep.
And he hasn't done it yet.
He just pardoned his son.
Yes, so pardon everybody else.
Yeah.
They called for expanded clemency, revised guidelines, and encouragement for state-level decriminalization to reduce the harms of medical criminalization. And that is the news, everybody. Potential threats to the new world of commercial cannabis cultivation. Big Earl and I just did episode 71 of the Grow Hour that talks about keeping things clean, disease-free, contamination-free, right? And in this article talks what is happening and what we're seeing in the large and small grows, but it's a whole new thing. All these diseases and contamination and stuff that probably a lot of these cannabis companies weren't ready for or prepared for and had to handle this, right? From what I'm reading and what I've discussed with Big Earl on multiple occasions about keeping your shit clean.
Yeah.
So potential threats to the new world of commercial cannabis cultivation. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, and just a little lead into this one. I cut out things that were too technical because I know that a lot of our listeners are just listening for knowledge and understanding of the plant, and they're not necessarily growing at home. So
You're not nerds.
So two things for those of you that are growers. You can listen to episode 71 of the Grow Hour, and you'll hear a lot more information, more in-depth discussion about this topic, and you will find the link with this episode that has the full article, so you can read if you'd want. And so when I started reading this article, I thought, who is this saying all this? Like, this is some pretty heavy bits of information. I wanted to make sure it was an accurate source. So the author is Kenneth Morrow, and some of you old schoolers here may know the name. He is the founder of Trichome Technologies, whose resume is as impressive as they come. Over the past 3 decades, he's developed sophisticated grow systems and hash-making techniques and bred numerous award-winning cultivars that have graced the covers, centerfolds, and calendars of High Times and many other cannabis publications around the world. High Times even ranked his garden #1 in their top grow rooms of all time in June of 1999. But perhaps his most historic accomplishment is becoming the first person on record to extract and isolate terpenes from cannabis. So, Kenneth, he knows a little bit. So here we go, talking about what is going on with these diseases. Okay, and this impacts everybody. Because if something's going on with diseases where your plant is being grown and you're a consumer, this affects you. So you should know about this. My first experience. This is a first-person article coming from Kenneth. My first experience with a virus or viroid infected cannabis plant was in 1996. I was employed as a consultant by one of the largest cannabis caregivers in the U.S. to confirm whether his genetics were infected with a suspected virus or viroid. He was experiencing a dramatic decline in yield, a diminished aroma and flavor, as well as a reduction in potency. At that time, there were no lab testing services to identify a virus or viroid in cannabis crops. I was tasked with growing his genetics in a different environment and growing system to identify quality and yield differences. At the end of the experiment, we, along with other cannabis experts, surmised that the plants were probably infected with a virus or viroid. In retrospect, it could have been hop-latent viroid disease or hemp streak virus, also known as HLVD. After this experience, I became vigilant for virus and viroid symptoms whenever I consulted in grows across multiple states. I began to notice a pattern of symptoms: fingers of leaves curling to the left or right, new shoots with lackluster or stunted growth, as well as yellow streaking in large and medium leaves. At the time, all I could do was speculate the cause. And so it wasn't until about 2016 when I mentioned to a colleague, a government entomologist, that I suspected a virus was infecting cannabis genetics on a multi-state level, and that each time a new market opened, cultivators typically sourced genetics from an existing market that was potentially infected with the virus, thus spreading the virus unknowingly throughout both legal and illicit cultivation facilities. My colleague eventually mentioned my theory to a fellow entomologist at Cal Polytech, who grew concerned that if I was correct and an unchecked virus was unknowingly being spread throughout the industry, it could mean billions of dollars in devastating crop losses. Today, many labs have confirmed at least one widespread infection. A study from Dark Heart Nursery found that up to 90% of California's cannabis genetics are infected with HLVD, which is said to have jumped from hops to cannabis. Cannabis growers have battled a plethora of pests and diseases in the industry's long-dated history, but legalization has allowed large-scale cultivation to flourish. 30 years ago, before the 1996 passage of Proposition 215 legalizing medical cannabis in California, and long before California voters passed Proposition 64 legalizing adult use, one very rarely saw powdery mildew in an indoor garden. As cannabis clubs and home grows became popular, clone point of sales multiplied. This represented a seismic shift in how cannabis was cultivated. Historically, a large portion of cannabis was grown outdoors, where cold winters killed most molds. If anyone was growing indoors, they typically kept a small number of plants to minimize the legal consequences if caught. But as the demand for clones grew in tandem with the number of indoor farms, people made businesses out of being cannabis nurseries selling clones. The mass trading of clones seemed to rapidly spread powdery mildew spores. Sales of neem oil skyrocketed, and soon many cultivators started utilizing a myclobutanil fungicide to eradicate the mildew. The use of myclobutanil was posing a significant health risk for consumers and was later banned in most regulated markets. As the industry matured, growers learned to better control their environments, not to take for granted that new genetics are not infected, and to properly quarantine before introducing new clones. Despite these efforts, powdery mildew remains a serious threat to crops today. The cannabis industry's production increase exacerbated plant pests and diseases, in turn creating conditions that are conducive to spread the new pathogens. While growers are generally aware of potential fungal and bacterial diseases, as well as many pests, less attention has been directed to viral infections. Researchers will soon face challenges in identifying and managing these previously unidentified viruses, viroids, and diseases in cannabis. HLVD is just the tip of the iceberg regarding cannabis and hemp and their susceptibility to viruses and viroids. The field of cannabis virology is fairly new, but I suspect it will become common for all commercial cultivators to engage with and employ labs that can perform both RNA and DNA testing, as well as PCR pathogen detection and assays, for genetic fingerprinting, for cultivar verification, and for detecting a multitude of potential viruses and viroids capable of infecting cannabis.
We know somebody.
Wow. Yes, we do.
Rachel from Deep Roots.
Yes.
Check her out. She's amazing. Yep. She can take care of all that for you.
There's a very long list of other viruses and viroids that are capable of infecting cannabis plants or possibly even jumping to cannabis plants, as HLVD is suspected of doing. Knowing that one infection increases the risk of another, the propensity for an outbreak of other viruses and viroids is very high. Having witnessed powdery mildew, HLVD, and various mite outbreaks over the decades, I must ask when additional viruses or viroids will become the outbreak of tomorrow. This seems especially likely considering some of the largest commercial vegetable greenhouses in the U.S. also host separate bays for cannabis cultivation. I didn't know that.
Me neither.
While others utilize converted greenhouses that previously housed flowers and are surrounded by agricultural crops that are susceptible to a multitude of pests and diseases. The vegetable and flower industries are well versed in the threats to their crops, but cannabis is just now learning exactly what its crop is susceptible to and discovering how to prevent and treat an outbreak. Given the narrow range of pest and disease preventatives at the disposal of a cannabis cultivator, it is crucial to establish strong pest and disease prevention protocols. As the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That was a great article.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Big Earl and I have talked about this multiple times on the Grow Hour, and you need to check out.
Yeah, I want to listen to
that last episode and the episode we did with Rachel from Deep Roots too. If you want to learn more about viroids and viruses and stuff, and your plant's basically getting the flu, and it spreads just like the flu. You know, if you don't understand what we're talking about here, it's basically your plants are sick and sickly. They still produce. But they're not producing what they should, and they look sickly. They look bad. They look like they need some rest. I've seen pictures.
They're just weak.
Yeah, they produce weak buds. They produce weak stalks. It's a very sad looking plant, and it spreads. And it's been now tested that it could spread in the seeds too.
Wow.
So you have to be careful out there when you're getting clones from somebody you don't know. Because if you have plants growing and you bring in a clone from somebody you don't know, that plant could possibly have the viroid that can infect all your plants. And Big Earl went over great details on how to clean and do everything you need to do to keep contamination away. When you're buying clones from somebody or seeds from somebody, I suggest that you find somebody that can do testing on them if they haven't been tested. It's a very wild world out there right now when it comes to how much is being produced. It's a brand new crop, like we just read in that article. You don't know where their crops are at and what's coming to their crops. We're learning more and more. Cannabis has never been massively produced. Corporate cannabis is massively produced. Hundreds of thousand square foot facilities with tons of plants. Whoo! You know, I don't know if I don't know personally. In what I've learned or even know of, if the cannabis plant should be mass produced like this, like a corn crop, you know, or like corn, and corn has been so produced now for so many years, everything and genetically modified to where corn is corn, but it's not corn. if you feel me, and it could happen to cannabis too. Especially how much mass produced it is, and how much now is being. You can't seed like you. When you're talking about a big grow operation, you can't use seed. It'll take forever. 95% of what they're doing is all clone based. Thousands and thousands of clones being pulled from mothers, you know?
So that means that they've got a mother plant or multiple mother plants, and then they just take a leaf or like a stalk.
Clone, a stalk. Yeah. And they put them in.
So a stalk would have two offshoots on it. Yep. Right.
Could be three. Some of them mostly 2 or 3. Yeah.
And then
they put them plant that. They plant it in rock wool, and then they have thousands of them
until they get some roots, and then that can be
then they can transplant
hydroponic or soil
depending
planted.
on what they're doing. Yeah.
So that has become more popular than seeds.
Oh yeah. Oh, they wouldn't be able to keep up if they did seeds.
Yeah.
It would take forever. You see how long it takes.
Because that's already 6 weeks that you're saving right there, right?
You've already seen how long it takes from germination to get to.
And then that mother plant will regenerate.
Oh, you can. I've talked to somebody that's had a mother plant since 1996.
And those genetics don't weaken over time?
No, not that I know of. He's had this mother plant since 1996.
That's cool.
I was interviewed by the guy for a job. And we were talking about Florida weed, and there was a strain down there. He goes, "I bet you missed a strain." I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "Crippy." I'm like, "Come on, how do you know about
heard that forever.
I'm like, "How do you know about the Crippy?" He's like, "I got a mother plant." I'm like, "What?" Yeah, exactly. I was like, "Come on." Now he's like, "I've had a mother plant since 1996." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here! I want to come meet you." I didn't get that job, but it was in Missouri, so I didn't get that job. So, because I lived in Chicago, but I would wish I would have kept that guy's contact because I would have liked to have gotten to meet him just to get some crippy.
Wow.
Because it's been a long time. International news. Israel's Minister of Health says tariffs on Canadian cannabis will harm patient benefit and benefit illicit market. Israel's Ministry of Health has criticized proposed tariffs on Canadian cannabis imports, claiming they will harm patients by raising prices and push consumers toward a legal market. The Ministry of Economy has proposed tariffs up to 175% based on concerns of product dumping. The health minister disagrees with this approach, arguing it would only increase cannabis costs and lead to more illicit trade, while also criticizing the lack of consultation with healthcare experts during the investigation. South African hemp industry set for tenfold rise in legal THC limits. South Africa is increasing its legal THC limit for hemp cultivation from 0.02% to 2%. Don't you think they should do that here in the United States instead of being 3%, a tenfold rise that will support local farmers. Nice. Go get them, South Africa. Show us how it's done. Berlin's Justice Senator says cannabis law benefits mafia-like structure and it should be replaced. Berlin's Justice Senator Felor Bangdeberg has sharply criticized Germany cannabis legalization, arguing it inadvertently straightens criminal organizations. The law, which allows adults to possess up to 25 grams of cannabis and cultivate 3 plants, was intended to combat the illegal market. However, Bandenberg claims that instead it made it harder to fight organized crime, particularly in commercial cannabis trafficking. He suggests that criminals benefit from gaps in law, such as limitations in telecom surveillance. Bandenberg has called out the repeal of legislation. Bandenberg. Ugh. Come on now, man. Australia's Senate votes down marijuana legalization. This is the big one, man. My poor friend Tez and Reefer Terps and all the people that listen to us down in Australia, thank you for listening first. But this, when I read this, I was just talking to somebody the other day. I was all excited that my friends are going to have legal cannabis in Australia. Mr. Weedman will definitely want to come and visit. And then I met somebody from Australia, right, on Thanksgiving, and we had a conversation, and I was like, man, oh man, he lives there. He's from here, but lives there now, and we were talking about it for a good, 30 minutes. I was like, I'm bummed. Tez, Reefer Terps, and everybody in Australia, I'm upset for you all. Australia's Senate voted 24-13 to reject a Green Party proposal to legalize cannabis nationwide. The bill aimed to establish a regulated market and allow personal cultivation in cannabis cafes. So bummed. Despite the defeat, proponents like Senator David Showbridge see the vote as progress in shifting away from the war on drugs. The proposal was blocked by the Labour and Liberal parties, citing constitutional concerns, though Showbridge vowed to continue advocating for legalization. You all 3 parties need to come together and figure this out. If you're saying that there was constitutional concerns, what constitutional concerns were you afraid of to make you not give what your constituents want in your country? Legal, recreational cannabis that they can't get arrested for if they can home grow, be able to carry up to so much in weed without getting in any trouble. Because here's the kicker. You ready for this? Australia's booming medicinal cannabis trade on track this year to quadruple 2023 sales.
Wow.
So Labour Party, right? I think it was the Labour Party and the Liberal parties. You need to take a look at this and see what's going on and what your constitutional concerns are, because your medical industry of cannabis is booming in sales. Australia's medicinal cannabis industry has experienced rapid growth, expected to quadruple its sales this year. With increasing domestic demand and rising exports, Australia's cannabis producers are making a significant impact on the global market. Importation is also high, showing the local production is balancing imports to meet demand. The sector has seen heightened competition, especially as the market diversifies with more players entering. Australia's medicinal cannabis market is poised for further expansion driven by both local supply and global demand. What is the problem? Why did you vote this down 24-13? What's the matter? You didn't like anybody in the Green Party? Because their stuff is actually green? They want the green to produce, manufacture for the people? For the people! I don't get it. I really don't. You had a chance to Australia to do something great, and you would have been another country, because New Zealand would have followed within a couple of years. Some of your countries all around you maybe would have followed more, because you're a big country with a lot of good people, and you should have voted yes. Your constituents might see you different in the next voting.
Oh, here you go.
That's all right. I'll smoke more in a minute. This is sad. A sick Canadian man, 64, traveling with just CBD medication, sentenced to life in Dubai prison. Life. Maurice Kevin O'Rourke, a Canadian man, has been sentenced to life in prison in Dubai for possessing CBD oil, which he uses for medicinal purposes to manage Addison's disease. He was arrested on July of 2024 while transiting through Dubai with 118 grams of CBD products, despite being prescribed the medication by his doctor. The UAE's strict drug laws led to his arrest, but CBD is not a drug.
Yeah.
And he was fined $190,000 Canadian. His family and human rights advocates have called for his release, highlighting his deteriorating health while in custody.
Gee, that's terrible.
Terrible. France's strict cannabis laws clash with its position as Europe's top consumer, fueling debate on legalization and economic potential. France maintains strict cannabis laws prohibiting recreational use, possession, and cultivation, yet it has the highest cannabis consumption rate in Europe. The country faces significant economic challenges, with a national debt at 112% of GDP. Legalizing cannabis could offer financial relief by generating up to $2.8 billion annually and creating 80,000 jobs, while also reducing law enforcement costs and gang-related crime. However, France's medical cannabis program faces delays and political uncertainty, which potential cuts affecting over 2,000 patients. 2.8 billion annually in euros, 80,000 jobs, medical going to shit, and your 2,000 patients are going to get ugats.
Right.
Come on, France.
Like, what's there to think
You're
about?
You're supposed to be the freedom of the people. You're supposed to be liberals, the liberalist country in the world, and you can't get on board with what this green plant is all about. France, oui. Come on. This is huge, though. 10 years of legal weed in Uruguay, the first country to legalize cannabis. Will the new government expand access? Uruguay marked a decade of legal cannabis in 2024. The government is now assessing whether to expand access under its new leadership. Though Uruguay was the first country to fully legalize cannabis in 2013, the program has faced some challenges, such as slow rollout of sales points, limited cultivation, and banking restrictions. The country has approximately 41,000 registered users, but many still source cannabis illegally due to supply shortages. The new government is exploring further reforms, including the possibility of cannabis tourism, and expanding the number of pharmacies that can sell the product. Fix that shit, Uruguay. You've been legal for 10 years. The people want their weed. Fix it so people can have plenty. Right?
That's right.
This preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah.
Joy, I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name.
Oladokun.
You played some music from her earlier while we were sitting having dinner. Beautiful voice. Funny, too.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead and tell us her story, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, so Joy Oladokun is many things. She's black, queer, as nice as they come, a hardcore NBA fan, down to earth, and by her own admission, a sensitive stoner. It's a label she uses to draw attention to the negative stereotype associated with cannabis culture and give those who perpetuate such an antiquated way of thinking about weed something positive to consider. As far as Joy is concerned, cannabis is a multi-purpose, life-enhancing plant. She says she credits the medicinal properties of the herb for aiding in her recovery from the religious trauma of her youth, overcoming anxiety, as well as forging a successful career as an artist. It's my way of saying that I'll smoke a lot of pot and I feel a lot of feelings. Oladokun tells me from her studio in Nashville. Her latest album, Proof of Life, her second album, is all the evidence anyone needs of that. It's a smooth, emotional amalgamation of R&B and folk that resonates a sense of calm in the storm of American intolerance. Sorry, I have cotton mouth. Ooh. Bad. When Oladokun talks about being on the road, she says it's the unity she has manifested through her music and her ability to bring together fans from all walks of life that she treasures most. We have found this common ground, even though we're all very different people, she says. And getting stoned with the artists she shares the stage with, some of them her heroes, isn't a bad consolation prize. I try to smoke weed with everybody who's willing, Oladokun says. There's a band I love called Manchester Orchestra. I smoked a joint with Andy Hull, and that was a highlight. Honestly, a lot of people have been on and off my tour bus. While cannabis is instrumental in Oladokun's life, she admits she's a late bloomer. It wasn't until after leaving her small religious town and God-fearing family in Arizona to attend Vanderbilt University in Nashville that she says she was exposed to the plant for the first time. I had just heard so much negativity about drugs in general, and there's some addiction in my family, Oladokun says. I think in high school, I didn't know enough about anything to risk it. But after pulling a bunch of all-nighters in college and getting a taste of the Music City studio life, somewhere along the way, someone passed her a joint. She accepted it and gasped. Nancy Reagan, Jesus, or anyone else for that matter, didn't appear and drag her to hell. Oladokun learned in that moment that weed wasn't negative. On the contrary, the experience was invigorating, uplifting, and a source of new life. It was the best vocal take I'd ever done, and I slept really well and had a great day at school, she recalls. It was an awakening, one of those aha moments, she suggests, that all the anti-pot rhetoric she had been force-fed in her formative years was, in a moment of clarity, untrue. Learning that weed could help her function better as a human was a major turning point. She wasn't about to let the ill-informed just say no jibber-jabber of her youth prevent her from her happiness. The Hard Way, a soft croon from the latest album, is undeniably a reflection of this metamorphosis. Jesus raised me, good weed saved me, the tune begins. Not only has cannabis been a catharsis for Oladokun, it's also a game changer in her approach to songwriting. I tend to smoke when I get in the studio. I take edibles and have those little syrups, and I try to stay dosed throughout my creative time, she says. To hear her tell it, cannabis is also deserving of a co-executive producer credit. When I'm producing something, I try to take a break when I feel like it's done and listen back to what I've worked on, she says. Weed, it would seem, is Oladokun's not-so-secret, crucial creative tool, expanding the depth of her ear and allowing her to process the work from a place that's unattainable without it. Can I get an amen?
Amen. I'd love to have her on the show.
Yeah.
If she's ever in Chicago.
Be cool.
Be great to have her smoke a big fat doink and hear her story.
Yeah.
Be amazing. So,
That'd be cool.
Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
It is.
Got anything else to say?
Join us if anyone's in the city this weekend. Join us at Brunch of Stoners. It would be great to see you. And otherwise, we are thankful for all of you and have a great week.
Have a great week, everybody. To all my phenomenas and phenomenos, thank you for the laughs, Mrs. Weedman. Everybody out there in the world, we love you. We appreciate the hell out of you, and we're thankful for you all. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pow.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.